Streamlining is a process that almost every game inevitably goes through. But no matter what circumstances cause it to happen, it's always a question that has to be answered. How do we simplify our product in a way that invites inexperienced players while still retaining an edge that experienced players will enjoy? And there's no better case study for this than Super Monkey Ball. First released by SEGA in 2001 for the arcade and then later the Gamecube, Super Monkey Ball was created by Toshihiro Nagoshi, who you may know now as the creator of the Yakuza series, who also tries really hard to look like a Yakuza, but back in the day, he was an arcade game developer, more known for the streamlined, high-octane fun of SEGA and Daytona USA than the complex, gritty crime stories of Yakuza, and Super Monkey Ball was no exception. You roll around simple arcadey levels with tricky turns and levitating ledges that require you to tilt yourself around the course with such precision that one slight misplacement of the analog stick can make your monkey fall to his death. But despite the game's inherently precise nature, Super Monkey Ball is the very definition of streamlined. Your one major control is the analog stick. That's it. You press A to select and speed up level openings, but apart from that, Super Monkey Ball is a one button or one stick game. You'd think that this amount of streamlining borders on oversimplification, but the challenges of navigating a movement system based on physics and momentum means Super Monkey Ball is a game that appeals to anyone, can be easily understood by anyone, and can be taken to its absolute limits as far as anyone wants to. And the added touches of the plethora of extra minigames and the cute monkey characters rolling around in the balls makes for an experience that is so bizarre yet unfathomably genius that I'm sat here wondering how Nagoshi and his team at SEGA even came up with it. Streamlining isn't just a process to Super Monkey Ball, it is Super Monkey Ball. And not only is that by far its biggest strength, but also, historically, its biggest weakness. When you streamline a game to the degree Monkey Ball has, the question posed to the dev team changes. How do we expand on this series in a sequel without overcomplicating it to the point it loses what made it charming in the first place? And this is where Super Monkey Ball faltered. Super Monkey Ball 2 was released just a year after the first game, and it included an expansive story mode with cutscenes, a massive amount of new game modes, and countless little refinements to the core engine, graphics, and expansions on the level design that are unique and fresh, even if they are a bit gimmicky sometimes. It resulted in a sequel that was about on par with the first game in most areas and well loved by both fans and critics alike. So the answer to this question, in the short term at least, seems simple. Just make iterative sequels, but in the long term, this was bound to fail eventually, and SEGA knew that. Because if people complain about how derivative Call of Duty or Pokemon sequels are, then people will definitely get bored of iterative sequels to Super Monkey Ball, a game that's whole appeal is that it's far less complicated than most other games, let alone Call of Duty or Pokemon. This gives the Super Monkey Ball series an issue completely unique to itself. Expand too little and it's boring, but expand too much and it loses its charm. And after years of creating terrible Peggle clones, adding boss fights in a series that was never appealing for that reason, and adding Wiimote motion controls that are so imprecise you have to put guardrails and everything to make the game playable, but as a consequence you just defeated the entire point of the game, the question of how do we expand on this series in a sequel without overcomplicating it to the point it loses what made it charming in the first place has remained unanswered. And it's what led to the series' sharp decline in quality, sales, and ultimately releases. Except, not quite, because Super Monkey Ball has come back. Kind of. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania was released in 2021 as a sort of reimagining of the first two Super Monkey Ball games, with all of the levels remade in both easier and more faithful variants, and tons of new characters and cameos for people to enjoy. In a lot of ways, Banana Mania is a return to form for Super Monkey Ball, but the question still remains of whether the Monkey Ball series will continue in the future, because Banana Mania isn't a truly new Super Monkey Ball game, it's a double remake. So if SEGA were to create a completely new game, they still need to answer this question. And judging by the state of Super Monkey Ball for the past 15 years, it's a much harder thing to do than it looks. And if it were up to me, I don't think going back to a sequelized formula like the first two games is going to work for Super Monkey Ball in 2023. The series is too simple, and trying to push out new games every year or so with either just added levels or new gimmicks to get in the way of the core gameplay is just going to leave it in the same hole it left itself off in. Instead, I think the series would do very well as a live service game in the same vein as games like Mario Maker or Fall Guys. You release a new Super Monkey Ball game, either paid for at a low price or free to play with cosmetic skins, and it launches with a good amount of levels for people to enjoy. Then, every so often, the developers can add more levels as the game's life goes on to consistently bring players back. And they can especially compound on this if they add a sophisticated level editor for the community to enjoy. Combine all of this with online leaderboards for all the levels and smooth online multiplayer for all its minigames, and I think Super Monkey Ball could make a big comeback. These games function best as party games and short, simple challenges to be undertaken at each player's pace. And I truly feel that not only is Super Monkey Ball one of the few games that actually fits the idea of a game that tries to foster a community and consistent engagement with its content like a live service does, but it would also play to the game's simple strengths without indulging its simple weaknesses. But this is all just an idea, and the state of Super Monkey Ball as of 2023 is one of uncertain limbo. So if SEGA do try their hand at making a new Super Monkey Ball game, let's just hope it's not as bad as Banana Blitz. Thanks to my patrons on Patreon for making this video possible, including my anonymous patron, and leave a like and comment down below if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you, bye!